Morauta's passing was announced late yesterday on social media. The former Prime Minister is the second to have passed away since Sir Bill Skate in 2006. Sir Mekere's life in the public sector began as a research officer with the Department of Labour. He later reformed the financial banking sector and strengthened the political party governance. The impact of his work is far-reaching both here and in the Pacific. This is tonight's a closer look at the life of Sir Mekere Morauta, the former Prime Minister and current member for Moresby North West in the time of his passing.
For many Papua New Guineans, Sir Mekere Morauta will be remembered as the straight-shooting politician and the reformist Prime Minister whose work came to be appreciated more than a decade later. Up until the 1990s, Mekere Morauta's public life was rather low-key. He thrived behind the scenes, helping to develop, shape and implement important government policies. He was the first graduate in economics from the University of Papua New Guinea, and with it came important responsibilities, both for his people and the country.
When I look back, I recall very clearly someone talking to me in 1979-80, Sir John Crawford, a famous Australian. He told me, or made a statement, saying that Papua New Guinea's standard of policy making and government public service was so high, quality was so good, so early in this nation's life. His challenge to me was, would those standards be sustained? Because possibly you couldn't better them. So the task of sustaining a nation with those qualities was going to be our challenge. When I look back now, I find he was right.
In 1971, he began a career in the public service as a research officer with the Department of Labour. A year later, he took up a job as economist in the Office of Economic Advisor. When Papua New Guinea became self-governing in 1973, the government of Chief Minister Michael Somare sought out its best and brightest to help run the young democracy. At 27, Mekere Morauta was thrust into a position of power and responsibility when he was appointed Secretary for Finance, a post he held for 9 years. He was always an important influencer in the banking and financial sector of Papua New Guinea. In 1983, he was appointed Managing Director of the Papua New Guinea Banking Corporation, an important PNG institution. He held the position for another 9 years until his upward transition to a new job as the Governor of the Bank of Papua New Guinea. It was in this short stint as Central Bank Governor that he shot to prominence as an outspoken enemy of corruption that was infecting PNG government institutions. Sir Julius Chan was Prime Minister then, and in a foreign documentary on corruption in Papua New Guinea, Mekere Morauta spoke out and was removed 1 year into the job.
I think it would be fair for me to describe corruption as both systemic and systematic. Systemic because it has invaded the whole processes of policy making and decision making. It has drowned the whole system, so it's systemic. It's systematic because it's organized.
The period from 1994 to 1997 were politically turbulent. The international attention on government institutions and the corruption highlighted by key figures in Papua New Guinea, including Sir Mekere, caused many Papua New Guineans to demand a change in leadership and management. The seeds had already been planted. In 1997, when the government of Sir Julius Chan opted to bring in South African mercenaries to end the Bougainville crisis, PNGDF Commander Brigadier General Jerry Singro called for the Prime Minister to step down and riots broke out. It was months before the elections, and when Sir Julius was voted out of office, a new group of political leaders, including Sir Mekere Morauta, were voted in. For the next 3 years, the country faced deep economic trouble. The decade-long closure of the Bougainville mine, a severe drought, and high unemployment, and government institutions in desperate need for reform. This was the scenario in 1999 when Sir Mekere took over from Bill Skate as Prime Minister. In the next 3 years, Sir Mekere had the most impact on Papua New Guinea's political and economic future.
You know, the country had been completely wrecked by just dreadful governance, you look at the economic and social indicators, and it's quite clear that Papua New Guinea was on its knees. He came straight in and instituted a whole series of reforms that changed the face of Papua New Guinea and sustained the economy and society right through to the end of last year. His reforms had very deep and very lasting effects. Part of the reason for that is that he was internationally renowned, and when the crunch came in 1999, he was able to call on friendly foreign governments, friendly international institutions, and expertise from all over the world to support Papua New Guinea in that time of crisis. He brought concessional finances to Papua New Guinea through loans from Australia, Japan, China, New Zealand, concessional lending from the World Bank and IMF, the Asian Development Bank. And that is because of his international stature.
In 2000, the Mekere government introduced sweeping reforms in the finance and banking sector. He introduced legislative reforms that strengthened the superannuation funds and banks, effectively eliminating much of the political interference that these institutions had long been burdened with. Through the reforms, Nest Fund and other super funds, which were on the brink of collapse, were revived and strengthened.
We remember Sir Mekere for the strong political leadership that he displayed in 2000 for driving superannuation reforms in Papua New Guinea. If he hadn't intervened at that time, I think the funds who were laden with problems, with deficiencies, lack of governance, strong political interference would have been in a different state today. So to Sir Mekere, the superannuation industry owes him a lot. As a proponent of implementing the reforms that Sir Mekere instituted in 2000, the superannuation industry is very strong today. Members, contributors to the funds, NAS Fund, Number Super, Commonwealth Trustee, their predecessor organizations, the National Provident Fund, Public Office Superannuation Fund, and the Defence Force Retirement Fund has strongly benefited from the governance reforms that were part and parcel of the superannuation legislation. So we owe Sir Mekere a lot for those reforms.
In the political sphere, constitutional changes were made to strengthen political parties and other institutions of state. As Papua New Guineans come to grips with the void left by Sir Mekere's passing, the impact of his decisions at the turn of this century will continue to be felt decades into the future.
From a personal point of view, it was a wonderful experience to work for him. I know there are a lot of other Papua New Guineans who feel the same way, and you know, I hope he's remembered in the way that he deserves.